Thanks, Dave and Frank. I'm going to go ahead and make Rob the presenter here.
Thank
And
you.
if you want to go ahead and share your screen, Rob.
Okay.
And this is going to be over the new DocStar, the old DocStar. And when does the new DocStar come out? We had a question earlier today that I couldn't answer.
We got, I believe it's next Thursday is when the new DocStar, the 20.1 release is coming out.
Okay, so there's our answer. Someone had asked me when the new DocStar was coming out during my 10.2 new, and I'm like, I don't know.
So yes, the new release will be coming out then. And I'll confirm that too, just to make sure.
Awesome.
Awesome. Can you see
Well,
my
you
screen?
got the floor. Everybody can see you. We can all hear you.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Did you want to take a quick break or should we just get started?
We can go ahead and get started. I know we're coming up here towards the end, but we're recording the session, so we'll go ahead and break all these out again. There will be MP4 videos that people can pull down from YouTube. We'll go ahead and put a copy of each one of the presentations up there.
Okay, sounds good. All right, good afternoon. My name is Rob Reid. I am with Epicor DocStar. I am the territory manager for the North Central area. So basically Ohio to the Dakotas to New Orleans. So I've probably met a good chunk of you before, but we're coming up on our third year as an Epicor product as part of the Epicor family. And it's been quite an adventure. And over the last 2 months, it's been quite an adventure because I'm getting phone calls that we can't have our back office people in the office. We need them to be working remote. And I was talking to a company just last week that their AP people are coming in on Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Friday nights after hours, picking up documents, dropping off documents, picking up documents, dropping off documents. And it's not very efficient. Talking to a gentleman in Chicago, he more on the distribution side, but it's like we don't need our people working in the office. So I know you guys have probably heard about us and done this. I'm going to take a step back today and really focus on how to do ECM, Enterprise Content Management. I've been in this industry for 20 plus years, worked with a lot of different products, but I feel like the point to get you guys to help you get started is to give you some basics. And a lot of these products have the basic things in them. The difference is when it comes to E10 and working in the Epicor family, we're a product we lift. When you lift, we have the integrations. But let's just talk about ECM and let's just talk about how we get there. So we're just going to talk about the overview, and then we'll do a demo at the end to kind of walk you through. So what is enterprise content management? That little circle right there, the document lifecycle, that's pretty much it. It's how do I capture it, whether it's a piece of paper, a PDF, a Word document, a PowerPoint, maybe it's a CAD file, a WAV file, whatever that is. Then I have to classify it because we can't just throw it into a filing cabinet and hope of finding it. So when we say classifying documents, we're talking about indexing or tagging. And what we do when we classify these are we build relationships, and we call them parent-child relationships, but we cross-reference these documents. So think of it as that folder in your desk where you're putting certain documents in there. It might be a company where you're just putting all the company things in there, or how we're going to classify those documents. We do have.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
Rob, can you, on the go-to meeting, the two arrows that point together, can you click that because that's covering up part of your presentation, or if you can move that over to another screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. There we go.
That's okay. Thanks.
Can you guys see it now? Okay.
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
I
much
thought
better.
that was just my screen.
Perfect.
Okay, so we got to classify these things. So how do we do that? How do we index them? It can be a very manual process. We can use OCR to do word searches But it's like when you go to Google and you type in the word kitten, you know how many hits you get. And it's a lot of hits. So we got to make it so we can find things, so we can retrieve them, so we can store them, and then we need to collaborate. We need to be able to pass them back and forth to people, and we need to maybe do approvals and things like that. So we have tools to do things like that. And then we have retention policies in the organization. So then we have to dispose of the documents, because if we follow a retention policy and it says, hey, this document expires in 3 years, and we come in and we get audited and they say, hey, I want to see something for 4 years ago, and you say, here's our retention policy, we follow it, that document expired at 3 years, we deleted it, it's not a smoking gun. Versus, well, we keep everything. And then they're like, well, okay, we want to see something from 5 years ago, well, we can't find it. So the tool that we talk about with the ECM solution will put retention policies on these documents when they're set up. And this is a way to dispose the documents, whether it's purging them out of the system, maybe putting them to another external hard drive, or just deleting them. So think about it, it's like at the end of the year when you go through your file cabinets and put them in banker boxes and stick them in the warehouse. And then every 7th year, the shredding company comes and you shred your documents. But we're going to do this electronically. So this is basically enterprise content. The difference between doing something like this versus putting a share folder on your server or storing paper is the security, the workflows, all the different things. We've been talking a lot about SharePoint lately, and when we dig into it, people are starting to realize what the difference between enterprise content management is in, say, a SharePoint or a folder situation on a network. So let's see. So here's the basic ECM functionality. If you can get a thin client, great. It's made easier for implementation. It's easier working across devices, mobile devices. We don't really care which browser you use. That's a nice feature to have. You don't have to go around and install a bunch of clients on people's desks. Back to talking about the capture process, the storing, the retrieving, and the collaboration. Scanning is one way to get documents in there. Batch scanning, importing. So let's say you put a network folder on your multifunction device, and we scan them in, and then we start putting them into a queue, and somebody starts adding indexing to them, which then in turn builds that relationship between the documents. We can use barcodes. We could do a simple scan where we read a number in the corner that's always in the same spot. We have some other things that down the road, when you start getting into solutions, we use intelligent data capture, and that has artificial intelligence built into it, and that will help read documents. So there's lots of different ways that we can get documents in there. Once again, we talked about storing the documents and setting up the retention policies, the searching, being able to not just type in one word and try to find something. And this comes into play when you set up the indexes correctly in the document types. If you do get an audit and the auditor gives you a list of, hey, I want to see these checks, or I want to see these types of documents, or maybe you're doing data mining with inside your documents and you want to say, hey, I want to see ABC company, and I want to see every invoice I sent last month between the 1st and the 15th. And maybe then you would type in a part number or something like that. So it'll even break it down more for you to take you right to that document. So using OCR and using indexes and using relationships is a really powerful tool to be able to find things, to build those relationships, get them putting away automatically in the correct place. So that's when you do that, it's a combination of that to find the right solution to be able to find these things. Annotations are kind of important because say you're going through a process and somebody wants to leave a note. This drawing, we need to check, we need to make this change. Or this invoice, I approve it, but look at item number 3. So that's where we would put in annotations. Just like you'd put a sticky note or you might take a stamp and stamp it on your document. We can do that electronically. Versioning, or rev, as we talk, that's really important. And you're going to see that today when we go through the demo, and you're going to see how we'll put away something from Epicor and we'll keep track of those versions of those documents. And being able to publish a document at a certain time point. So if you're building, say, an HR file, HR booklet, and you're working on it, and then you're like, publish it. Okay, that's 2020's book, and then we'll start using it to build next year's book. So that's a really important thing to have in an ECM solution. Rules-based workflow. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but that's another thing. Because now that we have these documents inside the system, we can start using the software to make business decisions for us. And if we have this system integrated into another system, we can actually look up data inside the other system, maybe an ERP or a CRM or whatever that system might be. And when we can do that, then we can start leveraging databases to help with the workflows and to help make the decisions. Outlook, Microsoft Office integrations. Outlook, you don't want to take that email and print it to a piece of paper and then scan it in. You want to be able to put it right away. We talked about monitoring that email address, maybe being able to pull that attachment and that email and bring them in and put it away automatically. Those are things that are nice to have in the system. A virtual print driver. So maybe it's a PDF that you made on your desk, or it's an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe you're doing a trial balance at the end of the month, and that's a point in time. So you would normally just print it to a piece of paper, and then you'd have that. We can print it in digitally and put it away. Packages. Packages are important for anything where it's the same process. It's maybe a mortgage file where it's the same type of documents, and we call them sleeves, and we put the documents away, and that goes through a workflow, and we're able to see which documents are missing within that package. It could be building an order. We use packages for that sometimes. So that's kind of a neat way of keeping a group of documents. Maybe it's an HR file where we're keeping a group of documents together and then going through workflows and processes there. Electronic forms. So when you think of electronic form, you think of maybe a PDF that you would fill out, a fillable PDF. That's good. But when you do electronic form inside an ECM product, what happens is that data that you're filling out in the form is being captured, and some of it is being used to trigger workflows. So when we build workflows, sometimes we use forms to trigger those workflows. So maybe it's a job application that you have on your website, or maybe it's an internal form that somebody comes in and requests PTO. When they're doing that, we are actually grabbing information, indexing that document, and from there, we can do a lot of things. We can send an email notification saying, hey, Joe, thank you for applying for that forklift operator job. We'll be back to you in 2 weeks. Then all of a sudden, that document gets moved to the next person, and we start an onboarding process. Or maybe we're doing a purchase request, and you have to get 3 bids because it's over $10,000. You can attach them right into the electronic form, and people will be able to see those documents associated to the form. So forms are pretty powerful. It's typically a phase 2 project or something like that. And whether you come into DocStar and you use them that way, or if you use them external. Solutions, when we think of in the ECM world, accounts payable obviously is a big one. HR, contract management, AR, legal documents, maybe keeping track of versions of drawings, all kinds of different things that we can store into the document, into the repository. We don't care what the file type is, we can store it. So now we're doing an end user group in E10, so we talk about the integration. And what the integration does is we talked about how we get documents in, how we pull documents out, and how we index them and classify them. and we're going to cheat and use information that you've already entered into your ERP to help us do those tasks. So we don't have to do duplication of putting indexing documents. We don't even have to let the end user make a decision how to put it away, because we're going to leverage some things in the ERP to help us make those decisions and help us put it away. Let's see. Oops. Mobile apps. This isn't a dating app. This is actually a document app, but same concept, approved and I. Real estate's a little small on this. Imagine this was your phone, but if it's for simple okaying certain documents for certain processes, this is an example of an invoice, but it could be any type of document. We're going to give you some metadata that we grabbed from it, and then we're going to let the person make a decision. So that's a handy tool as we start to get more and more virtual, that maybe you just don't want to open up your computer and you want to take care of it on your phone. Here is a workflow designer. And the workflow designer, this is how simple workflows can be built. The workflow can be a 2-stepper, it could be a 4-stepper, it could be a more sophisticated one. This happens to be a purchase invoice workflow. Notice the colors on the system, and we code them for a certain reason. The blue ones, the software is making decisions. It's checking to see if that invoice has already been paid. It's checking other databases and other information to make decisions. Red is an exception. That's when somebody has to be notified, whether an email or going into their queue and saying, hey, this is stopped, and there's a reason it's stopped, and we need to address it. And then once it's been addressed, we can push it back in, and it'll keep going down the line. And that's when the yellow is when a human has to make a decision, when the software can't make the decision, and that's where it'll get to. And then we get to the end, and whether it's filing the document away because it's gone through approval process, or maybe we're pulling data that we captured from like an invoice and we post it back into E10 so people don't have to do data entry. There's lots of neat things that we can do with workflow. And the nice thing about workflows are they're very flexible. So we have standard workflows that we've designed, but that's a template to start. That's our baseline to start. And then what we do is we do discovery, and then we can change boxes around, and we can change values around, and we can get into that and understand how to push those things down for approvals and things like that. So we're not telling you how to do your business process. What we're trying to do is help you automate your business process from experience and streamline it. And these are great tools because you're going to start to see where the bottlenecks are. And you're going to start to see why things are getting stuck in certain places. So whether you're approving drawings, or we're watching certs, or we're building packages, or we're doing invoices, these are really powerful tools. And tie in with the electronic forms to trigger these, that's a really powerful tool too. So let's talk about the E10 integration with DocStar. So what we've done over the last 3 years is DocStar is an ECM product, and it's a repository, and it sits behind E10. And we are there to manage documents that are either created in Epicor, they're documents that came into the business via email or paper or however they got there. And we're this repository where we bring them all together and we put logic behind them and still start building relationships to them. So and then there's a couple options. You can view them through E10, or you can come into DocStar to view your documents. And it's all security driven. So the documents are classified, there's security put behind them, and then we leverage the E10 security, or let's say you're doing an HR project. So typically people who do HR aren't in E10. They might come directly into DocStar and do lookups and manage their processes, their workflows, their documents. So the nice part about this is there's an opportunity to view the document, and we're going to show you how this all works in Epicor, or we go into DocStar. So we talk about how we attach documents. Neil's going to show us how we can drag a document into E10, and we're going to grab data from E10 and we're going to put it away, and we're going to make the documents now searchable and how we're going to index them and things like that. So there's a couple of ways how we can store documents, and we'll kind of go through the whole retrieval process and how we do that. Advanced print routing. This is one of the tools that we use to put documents in. This is a routing tool. So you're creating invoices, you create 10 of them and you send them out. Maybe 5 go via email, 5 get printed to paper in the snail mail. Well, the nice thing is when we do this step, if we add DocStar to the last step of this, that's what's starting to put the documents away for us. So think of this, any document that you create in Epicor that you want stored, indexed, version controlled, can automatically be done without having to print it to a piece of paper or put it in a file cabinet or make copies of copies or print emails. It can all be done automatically through this flow. And that's how we start attaching documents. And what I've experienced over the last 3 years, this is a really good way to get started. It's a great way to understand how the integration works, and it's a great way to start putting things away. So a perfect example is maybe you do a sales quote, and the quote, someone calls in and says, hey, I need a quote for 100 widgets. So you create the quote in Epicor, you email it out to them, boom, a copy goes into DocStar. They might call back an hour later and say, hey, I just only need a quote for 50 widgets. So you go back in the E10, you create that, you email it out. Now what it does in DocStar is it recognizes that the quote, it recognizes the company. What it'll do is create a version of it. So when the order comes in down the road, if there's miscommunication or you can't remember which quantity you have versions of all those quotes. So that's a pretty powerful tool to keep track of the versions of the things like that you guys are sending out of E10. So here's just what we were talking about. We have an opportunity to attach documents inside of E10, but we also have an opportunity to reach into DocStar and pull documents out into this tool and start creating packets and start building these documents and send them out. So we can attach documents from E10 into DocStar, or if we want to make a step here where we reach into DocStar and pull documents, maybe there's certs or other types of documents that you need to send out a package out, this is a good place to start. So you can add or take, and this is kind of the neat part about the integration. So what I'd like to do next is Neil Henson is one of our SCs, and he was going to do a presentation of just kind of what we talked about today. And we're going to give you some high-level DocStar, but we're also going to really focus on this advanced print routing situation. This is a great building point if you want to start doing AP, if you want to start doing sales order automation, all these other tools that we have, because what it's doing is it's starting to build these documents and putting them away, and you're learning the fundamental concepts. And then once we get down to this, then it can start building into bigger solutions and it can start growing through the organization. So I know we always get on there and do these hour-and-a-half demos and things like that, but today I just really wanted to bring it back to the beginning and start over and just kind of help you guys walk through this. So Neil, you want to take over?
Now,
Yeah,
do
sure.
you need me to make Neil the presenter, or does he have remote of your PC?
We need to make Neil the presenter.
Got it. Here you go, Neil. It's on the way over to you if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Is my voice coming through okay? And can you see the screen coming through okay?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, so what we're going to take a quick look at then is we'll do a little overview of the DocStar ECM product, what it looks and feels like, how we can capture documents, how we can look at documents, other things we can do with those documents. Then we'll kind of segue into the integration with Epicor. Right, how do we attach files in Epicor and have them go into DocStar? How do we pull files out of DocStar that are linked to an Epicor record or transaction? So we'll show some of that stuff too. Essentially, as Rob explained in his PowerPoint, DocStar is an enterprise content management solution, which essentially allows you to quickly and efficiently capture, process, and store, and ultimately quickly and easily retrieve any documents within your organization. So the first thing let's talk about is how do we get documents and content into DocStar? Well, there's a number of different ways to do that. Number one, I can go right to the Capture tab in the application if I'm a DocStar user and actually connect to a scanner, right? Whether it be a multifunction printer in the office or something local to my PC, I can scan this directly into the DocStar application and vault it away. I can also import through folders, as Rob mentioned. I can browse right from the client, select the folder, select the files, and bring them right in. We can also monitor folders, right? So when a file drops in, a new file drops into a folder, DocStar can recognize that, pull that in automatically. We have a very tight connection with the Office suite. So I'm in Outlook right now, but if I was in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever it might be, I'm going to have this DocStar ribbon at the top that's going to allow me to save whatever I'm in, whatever document, whatever piece of content, right into DocStar. So if I'm in Word, it will save the Word document in Excel, be the Excel spreadsheet, etc. With email, with Outlook, I have the choice, the attachment, the body, one of the attachments, right? I can select which parts of the email I want to save into DocStar to vault away. We also then have the ability to set up a print to DocStar virtual printer, which essentially means that any application you're in with any file type, as long as it has a print option in that application, we can send that right into DocStar through any workflow that might be there and ultimately store it away. So, gone are the days of scanning, printing something out just to scan it back in to put it somewhere else. We can handle all the different ways of taking documents in, plus a couple of ways from Epicor, which we'll see in a few minutes. So once these documents are in the system, how are they indexed? How do we search for them, etc. So just like Epicor has enterprise search, one field searches the entire system. DocStar has a quick search bar too, one single field. If I put the word order in there, it's going to come back with all the documents that has the word order somewhere in its metadata. So it may not be in the content of the document, but it's going to be in one of the metadata fields that we're using to index this document. I can actually get quite granular too, right? I'm not just limited to, excuse me, one box. I can choose what location, what type of a document I'm looking for. I can even go down and search specific fields in there. So if I have a comments field with the word Addison in, hit search again, it's going to narrow it down to just the one document. You'll notice we get the preview over on the right-hand side. So just in my search results, I can, take a look, zoom in and out with my mouse, see if that's actually the document that I want to take a look at. And if it is, I can just double-click, open it up in a little more detail. So I get a bigger preview once I'm in the document. I get a thumbnail view on the right. So if it's a multi-page document, a handbook, a technical guide, a standard operating procedure, anything like that, I can scroll through the thumbnails rather than having to go page by page through the document. I can also, as Rob mentioned in the PowerPoint, annotate any of the documents in here. So much like a fully paper-based system where documents might go from person to person, someone puts a sticky note on, someone highlights something, someone blacks something out because nobody else needs to see what's there. We can do all of that stuff right within the application electronically. So I can annotate, I can do arrows, I can draw rings around things, I can highlight certain information. And then if there's sensitive information on there, maybe it's an HR document or a legal document, I can also redact key pieces of information quickly and easily. Now then, depending on security configuration and who has what security rights to which documents, I may or may not see these annotations. I may or may not see what's underneath the black redaction boxes. Then ultimately, if I email this document out, I have the choice as to whether or not to include those notes, those redactions, or not. Over on the left-hand side of the document is going to be all the content fields that are stored alongside this document. So there's a few system default ones that are in here. You can configure to hide any of the folders that you don't use. You can add new fields here if you want to add new ones. Every content type, this is an order acknowledgement that I sent in directly from Epicor, and we'll see that happen shortly. Every content type has a different set of fields, and you configure what fields go along with each content type. So for an order acknowledgement, I've got key sales order information like the order number, the PO number, the order date, the need by date. And I can have as many of those fields as I like come over from Epicor when I route this document in. These are the fields then that are indexed and used by the search system to allow me to quickly find these documents. The content fields also do one other pretty cool thing, and I'll show that in a few minutes. But I also wanted to pull your attention to this versions section of the screen. So we do support full check-in, check-out, rev control on all of the documents within DocStar. You can see this particular document has two versions. This goes back to what Rob was saying in the PowerPoint. When we generate a document in Epicor or attach a document in Epicor, the system's smart enough to know if it's the same thing and will automatically rev it. Now in this case, version 1 had a price of $27.60. Then something changed, and when we acknowledged it the second time, that price had changed. Now over in Epicor, when I see this order acknowledgement as an attachment to that order, I'm only going to see the latest and greatest. I can't see this full history. I have no knowledge of the full history. I'm always going to see the latest, most up-to-date version of the document. But as a DocStar user, I have the ability then to look at the changes over time that have happened to these documents. Okay, I mentioned one other little thing the content fields are going to do for you. And to show that, I'm just going to do a quick search for a job. I have a traveler that I routed in here automatically from Epicor. Different content type, different metadata fields associated with it. And then you'll notice I have this related documents section. So what DocStar is doing is based on the content type and based on the content fields, it's going out and looking for documents that might be related to this one. Now, that's all in configuration as to which fields have to match, what content types can be considered related, all that kind of configuration stuff. But it's gone out and said, well, for this job, 2135, there's an engineering change order, there's an invoice, there's a quality document package. Any of these, you notice, are hyperlinks, so I can click on one, open that up in a new tab, and I get a picture, a preview of that particular document with its specific content fields, and then it may have different related documents. So as you index and load these documents into DocStar, DocStar is automatically creating this network of related documents based on the indexed fields that are in there. Okay, next let's go over to Epicor and show the integration there, because you don't have to manually index a lot of these documents. Epicor ERP can do that indexing for you. So I'm just going to go over to sales order entry, and I'm going to show the most basic way to add an attachment to Epicor and have it flow into DocStar, and that's with a drag and drop. So I'm going to go into a folder. This is my local PC, but I'm just going to drag this credit app over to my sales order entry tab where it says sales order documents. And then it opens up an attachment management window. So it's going to double check I want to save this as this particular document type. That's going to match the content type in DocStar. And because I've selected this one, here's the metadata that's going to be automatically indexed to that document. So I can simply hit OK. I'm good with that. The document is now in my tree view. Now, if I'm just a regular Epicor user, I come and look at this order. I don't have a DocStar username and password. I don't want to use a DocStar license. I can simply double click and it's going to open up that document in the default viewer. If I do have DocStar credentials, I can right click and say view in DocStar, and that will take me right out to the browser where that document is. Now remember that metadata that was populated for me, I come in and search for, say, the PO number, for example. That document is instantly found based on the auto indexing that Epicor did. And as I said, this is a local file, but I could now delete this. I could change the name of the folder. I could delete the folder. That document will stay in the repository and will stay linked to the sales order, and you'll be able to bring it up at any time. So dragging and dropping, very quick and easy. Another method is using advanced print routing. So what I'm going to do...
Hold on one second, Neil. We have a handful of questions that have been starting here.
Okay.
Caleb has the first question. Can DocStar take images from barcode scanners? Some 2D scanners can snap images like cameras can.
We have a 2D barcode reader. So if we can get the image in there, we can read the barcode and bring it in to index it. So I'm not sure how we're going to present the image, but yes, we can handle pictures and we can read barcodes.
Okay. Melody has a question here. Can documents that were scanned into APM be imported into DocStar with indexing, which was manually assigned with the, I'm going to say, Melody, you got a typo here, but with renaming intact, and I'm going to say yes.
So APR replaces APM. So with APR, we can do that. They can.
But if documents were scanned and with the doc link in the older version,
if they're already in the APM kind of repository and indexed, can they be imported into DocStar with that indexing information? Is that the question? Yes. Okay. Yes, I believe so, Rob. We have data transfer and document transfer templates and routines that can bring documents in en masse with the indexing. That's correct, right, Rob?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
Awesome. And the last, we've got one more question. Can DocStar act like a vault for CAD data? And yes, it can.
So here's where we stand with CAD. CAD is it's SolidWorks, whatever that CAD system is. It's a great place to create document drawings and things like that, and it has layers, and they're complicated files. Typically, what we recommend is when you get to a stopping point, create a rev of it, create a PDF or TIFF or however you want to keep that. Keep that in DocStar. Keep working. Correct. Your drawings in the vault over there, but you can bring in that. And then what we can do is we can build those relationships, we can rev control them, and we can start adding them to packets. And that's where I would bring those documents into DocStar.
Okay. And Mark Olbrand has a question. Can we scan a day's worth of job routers and have DocStar read a barcode on page 1 of each router and store the routers as separate documents by the router number? And I'm going to say yes, because we can turn around. You wouldn't even have to have a barcode necessarily on there. It can also do intelligent document capture and recognize the job number and catalog.
I would, if you can have the barcode, because a barcode is a font, the accuracy is going to be so much higher. And if we can keep that barcode in the same location, I would definitely keep it simple. And if you can create that document in Epicor, and then you can mark it up on the floor, we'll put away the first version of it. You can bring it back and take it to multifunction. And what it'll do is it'll break on those barcodes. So it'll know, so maybe some of them are 2 pages, maybe some are 3 pages, some might be 1. It'll break, and then you can just put it into a scanner and boom. Then it'll start putting them automatically away for them, pull some index data from Epicor, and start building those relationships for you. So that's the long answer to yes.
With the APR, when you print the job traveler, I can even put the very first job traveler on file with the job, and then when the job is done, it gets scanned in. I'd have another version of that job traveler with all the notes on it.
Correct.
So you can do both of those, Mark. Sorry about that. And
Nope,
Dave
that's
Miller
okay.
says Prince is doing this with the barcode. So they're saying, yes, it works great.
Yep. Hey, Dave.
Awesome.
Awesome,
right.
Neil. Go ahead and continue if you would. I just wanted, before we got too far into it, we were getting a bottleneck here.
And no
Yeah.
worries. No worries.
That's perfectly fine. Okay, so drag and drop, quick and easy, indexes the document for us. And then as was just mentioned, right, if you want to print a document out of Epicor, any document that's a standard report or form in Epicor, we can route it into DocStar, fully indexed. So, you know, while I'm in the sales order, I'll do a sales order acknowledgement. I have a style, which has a routing behind it. So this is utilizing advanced print routing, basically to say, once I've generated this thing, what do you want me to do with it? That's what the routing side does. And what this routing is going to do is, number one, it's going to email it off to the customer. Saves me a step of creating a new email, attaching the file and sending it off. And it's going to capture it into DocStar for me and attach it to this record. So all I have to do is hit generate, execute the routing actions, and let it go through. So within a couple of seconds, it should have generated that order acknowledgement for me. There it is. It's attached it to my tree view. As an Epicor user with no DocStar credentials, just like the other one, I can still double click. I can open it. I can view it. I can send it right from my Adobe Reader if I want to. All right, so I'm not being restricted on what I can do with this document just because it went into DocStar. I have that right-click View in DocStar option. Go over to my Outlook, do a quick send and receive, and we'll see that that document was sent off to the customer for order 5016 with the attached file. And with DocStar sitting at the back end behind the scenes, I come back in, I do a search for the same PO number. There's my sales order acknowledgement sitting in DocStar for future reference. So again, quick and easy, automatically indexing that document and putting it away into DocStar. So that's great. You know, we can take any form from Epicor and route it into DocStar and have it stored away, attached to the record, so anyone in Epicor can quickly and easily get to that document without needing a DocStar username and password and license. But let's flip that kind of on its head and say, well, when I generate one of these reports or forms, I need to send extra documents, right? If I'm sending a shipment, a packing slip, I need the certs that were on the raw material components that went into the product I'm shipping. If I'm sending a PO, I need to attach a PDF of the drawing, the standard terms and conditions, some other documents that I might have sitting around in DocStar. And I can do that with the advanced print routing module and DocStar repository sitting behind the scenes. So I can take this PO number. I have nothing attached here. Just double check that, nothing in my attachments tab. But if I go and print this and say with supplemental documents, again, it's going to be routing. So it's going to apply a workflow behind the scenes to go and pull these documents and throw them all to screen and hit generate. It's going to generate the PO and it's going to find a whole other bunch of documents. And it's going to throw them all up for me. Now, I am going to get one error because I don't have a default viewer for one of the file types. I think it's just handling the print preview in the background now. But as you can see, it's already attached the document package to the PO. If I do a send and receive, here's my print preview finally. So there's my error that I couldn't open one of the files. There's my purchase order form that got generated. There's a terms and conditions sheet, which is a separate document that also got pulled up, and a material safety data sheet for that product, all pulled to screen and emailed automatically off to the vendor in this case. So again, utilizing the advanced print routing associated with this form, this PO form, and the DocStar repository sitting behind the scenes, I'm able to automate that document gathering process, attach it to an email, and send it off automatically. Okay, that's all I had to show today. We had a quick overview of DocStar. We looked at the integration to E10 with the drag and drop and the integration to the advanced print routing modules. Are there any other questions anyone wants to throw in?
Melody has a question. Where are those documents stored in relation to the Epicor database, and are they a space hog?
So they are stored really wherever you want them to be stored. You designate, the drive, the server, wherever you want those documents to be stored. And they are in folders deep within the system folders. I always have a struggle finding them because I've configured them to be quite deep in my system. It does keep an original copy of the file. So obviously it depends on the size of the files and how many. But typically you're probably keeping all those files on a server somewhere anyway. So this repository will just replace that. We won't be having duplicates of all the files.
Yep.
Marcus, what is the preferred scanner?
It kind of depends on the job. It depends on what you guys are doing. It depends if you're scanning huge packets every day. Multifunction machines work just fine, where you can set up a network folder on your network, and you can take those barcodes that we talked about and put a stack in there and scan them. DocStar will monitor that folder and put them away. It could be a desktop scanner. You could use that. You could set up emails to get emailed, scans emailed to you, and you can capture that. So the good way to look at that is just kind of look at what your volume's going to be over a week, and then you can all kinds of commercial scanners have pages per day and things like that. And we just need ISIS or Twine drivers, and we should be good to go. So that's a pretty simple solution.
Yeah, and just so people know, that Twain driver's been around since the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a well-used standardized driver out there.
Yeah.
I had tossed it in a few minutes late, but we use a Fujitsu FI 7180, 80 pages per minute, so I assume that's acceptable.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's no problem. Fujitsus are nice machines. So
I would probably say scanner resolution is probably the most important part here. An old scanner, like an old flatbed from the 90s that did like 100 by 100 DPI, that's probably not going to be enough to run through like IDC data capture. But if you're working with something that's within the last 5 years, the quality of the scan is what's going to really impact how's the document read and interpreted, and how's the data captured into the metadata field.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is these scanners have now dropouts in the software where they drop out, like say a blue page or a pink page or things like that. And it's typically junk in, junk out. One of the nice things when we look at when we look at the AP solution, we have you fill out a survey and we say, how are you getting your invoices? Typically what I'm seeing over the last couple of years is people are emailing their invoices to an email address. And what's nice about that is typically invoices that are being emailed are coming out of another ERP solution. So those tend to be tend to be like 99% accurate. So junk in, junk out, if it's been sitting in a warehouse for 10 years and the paper's starting to get brittle, it's going to be a bit more challenging. It's more right now versus 5 years ago or 10 years ago when we were managing paper, now it's more managing electronic documents. So those are ways we can do that.
Okay, and Dave Miller had a question in here in the last example. Can you send all of the docs to the printer something like a job packet printer where you want all of the prints attached to it or all the supporting documents included with one traveler, or you want an entire purchase order with all the blueprints attached to it when you send that out, that can be done here.
Yep. Yeah, with advanced print routing, correct. Are those coming out of DocStar or are those coming out of Epicor?
Out of Epicor.
Okay, yeah.
Printing the Epicor document and then the supplemental attachments inside Epicor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an APR requirement with that print routing.
Right.
Mike McWilliams here. In the workflow, is there a way to stop from prompting the user to submit if there's no exception?
Submit. I'm not sure what you mean.
Thank you, Rob. I had the same question go through my head. Mike, what have you got going on there? Like if all the metadata was read and all of it was filled out, the user wouldn't need to click submit or save the record? If there are
Can you
no
hear me?
exceptions. There you go, Mike.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so in the standard AP automation workflow, if in the blue items, if all like the exceptions are met, can it go through without submitting? So you have to click submit like 4 times. So first it checks and indexes it, and then you have to hit submit, and then you have to check if it's a valid PO. Then you hit submit. Then
no, it'll automatically flow through there until it gets maybe to a yellow box where a human has to make a decision, but it can flow through. So the interesting part about this is, so those it'll go right down the chain of blue and keep going, or it'll stop for yellow, so a human has to make a decision. And we can get it if it's a perfect match, we can get it all the way to E10 to be posted. Or
okay, maybe I have to get an updated workflow then, because my standard doesn't look like that.
Well, and there's a lot of things it's doing. It's verifying
Yeah.
that invoice has been paid. It's looking at a 3-way match. It's checking for a valid PO. It's doing a lot of different things in this example.
Here's one possibility that's happening. These are the standard out-of-the-box workflows. As the implementation went through, it may be that somebody decided, I want to put a stop here and a stop here and a stop here until I'm comfortable, and then nobody ever took those stops out. Right, because a lot of people do that as part of their implementation. Instead of letting it go all the way through, they're like, no, I want to review it and make sure it's working the way you told me it would work. And then they just never tweaked the workflow back to how it was.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'll get with support because I'm looking at mine versus this, and it should be going through that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Scott Williamson. HP Smart integration. Using the HP Smart app for Windows 10. I'm assuming.
Yeah, and Neil, any thoughts on that?
Is that using it for what specifically? Would be my question. Well, maybe we follow up with Scott after the meeting and answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, HP Smart is a mobile app for scanning.
Oh, okay.
So as long as it's scanning into a PDF like the Adobe scan would, you can route those Adobe scans as well from a cell phone scan over to DocStar.
Yeah. Yeah. It may have to go through an intermediary folder for DocStar to pick it up, because DocStar can't look into what that scanner's doing. But if it scans, deposits it into some network share somewhere, DocStar can pick it up and process it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd have to, just have to look at that, how that would be set up. But yeah, as long as we can get it to a folder or something, like we can pull it in.
And Mark, that answer is yes. So the next question was, if you drag an attachment from an Outlook email, PO from a customer or something, attach it to the sales order, and then also into DocStar E10 by dragging.
I'm sorry?
I think Calvin cut out there, but Mark was looking to be able to drag an
dropping
Outlook
direct
email.
from Outlook. There is an Outlook component. There's a toolbar with mail. So you
Yes,
could
so
attach the whole email from inside Outlook, or you could just take the PO that was attached to the email message.
Either
It's
or.
up to you. When you hit the save to DocStar, you get the option of the various attachments and the body of the email, and you pick which one you want actually, which ones or one
And the
or
document
all of
type,
them
right?
you want to take, and then a content type. Yeah.
So, but yes,
So you would fill that out there either in Outlook, but if you try
and put it away that way too.
yeah, but if you try and drag from Outlook directly into Epicor an email message, it won't allow you to do that because the message has to be saved somewhere on the network drive. So I would recommend using the DocStar ribbon tab and doing it directly in Outlook from there.
Yep. Yeah, that would definitely be an easy way to do it.
Also, we do have sales order automation, which can automatically strip that PO out and create the sales order in Epicor. I'll just throw that out there.
Nice. All right, Neil.
Christine's got a question out there. What tables in Epicor do you suggest we store customer statements that are sent out monthly? They show up on the customer screen, Epicor, also on the screen when a sales order is entered. Do we have an incorrect security setting or something? Sending out customer statements, Christine, you could do using the APR, Advanced Print Routing, and capture it directly there and catalog it directly into DocStar as well as email it out.
Right, and that's exactly what we do. You attach it to the customer table because that's the only thing you can attach a customer statement to. But what we have found is in sales order entry, in attachments, it also shows up there. And we don't want to have our order entry people see necessarily the customer statement attached in order entry.
There's a method directive that automatically pulls the customer attachments down to the sales order when you create a sales order. So if the customer statement were linked to the customer, it would also come down then to the sales orders.
Right, not a good thing. I want to prevent that.
You could intercept the attachment BPM, the method directive that's doing the attachment, and stop maybe a document type from being copied to the sales order, or do you want all attachments stopped?
No, because at some point you may end up attaching something to the sales order itself, right? Maybe it's the quote, or maybe it's the sales order acknowledgement, or whatever. I don't know yet, but I just don't want to see the statement type. So maybe that's what we have to do with intercept.
I think that there is a way to control that. Off the top of my head right now, I'd have to look into it, or maybe have support look into it. But there should be a way to lock which attachment types are actually then visible on the sales order. Because yes, some customer attachment types you will want to see, some standard instructions around that customer, standard things like that. But yeah, obviously there might be some sensitive data that you don't want to see. So we could take a look into that.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Any other questions?
Come up with an idea for you there, Christine, but run to no other place to link that customer statement that I can think of.
No, there isn't. I've racked my brain on that one for a while.
All right. 3 minutes to spare.
Awesome. We're doing great.
Yeah.
Will there be any online training for DocStar available to take in place of insights?
The community page always has classes available, and there's all kinds of supporting documents up there. I haven't heard of anything that's going to take place, but I will bring that up in our sales meeting on Friday. That's a great idea. So let me bring that up and push that out into the team and see if we can get something going.
Can the records that
Yes, trackers can't have attachments. Go again, Lori.
When she was talking about the statements, could they be attached to like the bill to record instead of the customer record?
That's what I was wondering, if there's like a customer contact or a customer bill to that you could attach the statement on a lower level that wouldn't copy over, kind of like the difference between part and part rev.
Yeah.
And attaching at a different level, but I'd have to see what other ones are available and then attaching that extra metadata when you do the document attachment so that it goes to customer and then as well as bill to. So both get set so it doesn't come back, but I don't know without opening the app if they have document attachments at that level.
Oh, okay.
The other question Scott Williamson had was trackers can't have attachments. Actually, they can, Scott. It's just not part of the tree. And when Jose was doing his demo earlier, you can turn around and pull those attachments and add that into the tree, but by default, it's not in there.
And you can just go to the attachments button at the top too.
Some of the trackers didn't have the attachment button. They're missing a couple trackers. So we actually had to build that in on a couple. So, but if you go ahead and add that, you can do the publish and subscribe and add that in with into the tree, and then they are displayed in there. It's a little bit more cumbersome in like the job tracker because you can have attachments at so many different levels inside of a job. Okay, next one here. Scott Williamson, customer tracker would be a place to look for customer statements. That's possible, but you may want to turn around and block those financials away from some people seeing those. If you save an Outlook email to DocStar E10, what format is that Outlook body saved as? PDF? Or is it an image of the message?
That is a good question.
Yeah, I don't know if they do it as a TIFF or if they do it as a PDF. It's going to be one or the other. I think it's a TIFF. I'm pretty sure it's a TIFF. And so here's another thing with DocStar. If you take a group of documents and you send them out, so say it's a Word document, one's an Excel spreadsheet, and one's a PDF. It will actually zip the files for you, turn them all into PDFs, and group them up. And if you send it directly out of DocStar, it can do that. And we also can put a security behind it. So if you want to send a password, or if you just want to send a link that might time out over a period of time, you have the ability to do that too.
Okay, and Dave Miller has a question. Can he upgrade to the new release from 17.52? You guys are on maintenance, so yes, you should be able to. Will the new release work with the older Epic, or do you have to be at 10.2.600?
You have to be at 10.2.600 because it lifts together.
Did that answer your question there, Dave?
Yes, thank you very much.
You could have been speaking the whole time I'm reading your question for you.
I'm very shy.
Okay, anybody else have questions? We're now going over. This is awesome. Great conversation, guys. And don't worry, anybody, I will still read if a question pops up in the chat window. Okay, awesome. If you guys also, if you can go ahead and send everybody over the presentation collateral stuff, we'll go ahead and add that to the notes. And Dave is asking if you're going to go take everybody out for a drink like we used to at the, I think that was Kevin that turned around, took everybody out after the user group meetings.
I'd love to. I would love to.
That would be at Insights. Oh, wait, we're not there.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to do that.
Can we just send you the bill?
We can even scan it and send it to you.
Anymore.
We could do virtual drinks.
Give me virtual drinks.
The bars doesn't open yet in Iowa till the 28th, so we have to wait.
Well,
we're in Ohio. We're pretty much wide. We're back to being open. I'm in Ohio, and you can get a haircut. Daycare is going to open at the end of the month, and you can go to a restaurant and sit down tomorrow.
We could sit down at the restaurant, but we can't go to the bar. So I bet we could get a drink, I guess, at the restaurant.
Yeah. You're not allowed to walk around in the bar. You have to sit in the same spot, but you can go to a bar. So
there we go. Virtual drinks it is sometime.
Awesome, Scott. If you haven't gone, I'll go ahead and contact you afterwards. I kind of wrote down in my meeting notes kind of the chairpersons from the different areas, and I'd like to put everybody together on another meeting to kind of figure out, hey, how can we improve the meetings and how we're rolling this out to people. I got Beth on there, I got Scott on there, Christine, you're there, Michael Cromer's out there. Mark, do you want to sit in on that one?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Sure.
Okay.
I was drinking. I wasn't paying attention.
Your state's open, ours ain't.
No, but my bar here at my house has always been open.
Heather, do you want to join in on that? I just saw your name go by on scrolling the list.
And then somebody from Minnesota we should probably add.
Yeah, I didn't see Carson on here, and I didn't see Bruce either.
I didn't see anybody from Minnesota, but I've got a couple names for you. And a couple names of some other folks from other groups that have expressed interest in doing online that maybe you can, everybody pool together and have kind of a bigger meeting.
Okay. And Bailey, are you still with the user group? Are you still on the call? Okay, Dylan may not be out there. I haven't seen this microphone go on or off lately. I'll also get in touch with Marilyn and see if we can figure out how to handle this so it kind of goes everywhere. Any other feedback from people or questions or comments about the meeting?
Thank you for letting us present.
Hey, awesome. Thanks, guys.
No problem. Appreciate it. Let us know if we can help.
You got it. I'll go ahead. It'll take a little while for us to break the video apart. It's a little over 8 hours today. We'll just do the 1 hour segments and we'll try and get that uploaded and we'll get the minutes of the meeting out. There's not a whole lot of minutes to the meeting, just kind of the announcement, but we'll try and attach all of the presentations that were done in there as well. We'll also do like Jose's code samples and Hasso's code samples. And we'll get an attachment for the MEMX presentation that's going on the 27th. Any other questions, guys?
Oh, great job.
Awesome. Another good one. Seemed to work out really well. Awesome. Hey, everybody enjoy your week and stay safe out there.
Thanks, Kelvin. Great job on a first run.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.